Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to KRS TV. This is your boy Kenny, and this is How to Get Away with Murder, Season 5, Episodes 6 and 7. And the name of Episode 7 is I Got Played. But before I start talking about that, I'm going to do a recap since I didn't do a video for Episode 6. I'm going to do a recap of Episode 6, which was called We Can Find Him. Now, this episode picks up, we get, a scene at the wedding. And we see that Miller is in the car and he's trying to reach out to Bonnie saying that he wants to talk to her. So from that I pretty much get the idea that Miller's not dead. So then it goes to present day. We see that Bonnie has decided to stay with her sister, Julie Winterbottom. And she's ask questions because she got the file and everything, so she's asking questions about the baby and everything. Julie is not giving her any real answers. She keeps dodging it and she's not telling her the truth. And we actually see that what ends up happening is that one point she tells her that that was me bringing the baby. And she was like, no, this is you leaving with the baby. What happened? She says that the father, told her that he was going to beat the snot out of her if she didn't do what he said. And she said that I brought the baby home, but Dad sold it, and he sold it to some family, and I don't know who this family is. And I just don't know. I wish I could help you, but I don't know. Then we actually see that she tells one day she's still, Bonnie's still questioning her. And we also find out that Julie has a daughter, so Bonnie's an auntie. So of course this, Annalise is telling Frank that, well, that's just it. Due to the fact that there's a baby there, she can use that to keep her there because Julie has always done that to Bonnie. Make Bonnie feel so guilty that Bonnie would just stick around, and she gets sucked into Julie's world. So we actually see that there's one scene, Bonnie's outside, and Julie knows who Annalise is too. And while she's on the phone, she's like, "Oh, so who was that, Annalise?" I was like, so Julie know about Annalise too. And then she tells Bonnie, "I really want to get high right now, so I need to go." We come to find out she's actually in drug rehab. And she starts talking about, when she thinks about her past and everything she's done and made her want to get high. But then what's making her want to get high now is because her sister's back after all these years. And she's asking questions about her child. And I've done so much to protect her. And if she knew the truth, it would kill her. And the whole time she's saying this, Frank is in that room and he's video recording the whole thing. And he ends up playing it back for Bonnie. And then also Frank had did some research about this family who supposedly adopted her son, and he gives her a dossier on this and everything. She takes it back to Julie. Julie then changes the script and said, "Oh, I took him out into the woods and I buried him." So she is just going to continue to lie and not tell the truth as to where Bonnie's child is. So then another thing that happened in this episode is Oliver and Connor. They both of their mothers are in town and they're looking for a venue for the wedding. They go to this big bar space that Connor had wanted to do. And we can definitely see that Oliver's mother really doesn't care too much for Connor. And she's very short and, with how she feels about things. And she was just like, yeah, okay, it is what it is. I can see what I have in my savings to help cover this. And, Oliver's like, well, Mom, you don't have to pay. She's like, it's my money. I can do what I want with it. I'm going to help take care of this, and, everything's going to be fine. And we just kind of seen that Oliver's mother is very standoffish. She's not really interacting with her supposed to be new son-in-law. And it was just crazy. So we pretty much see, like, throughout this episode, Oliver is just kind of sucking up to his mom. Everything she says is whatever you say, Mom, and he's not standing up for himself at all. And then we see that later on, Connor talks to his mom, and she was saying that, look, she asked for me to donate $2,000, and plus Oliver's mother wants them to get married at a church because it's cheaper. And Connor's mother comes to him saying that she's asking for $2,000, and I don't got that kind of money. And she was and she's like, why is she asking for this? And she's like, you need to talk to Oliver about this. And Connor was like, I can't talk to Oliver because he pretty much does everything she says and he doesn't stand up to her. So pretty much we come to find out why is there such dissonance with Oliver and his mother, and we come to find out he never revealed his HIV status to her. Because we definitely know that Connor knew, but he's never come out to his mother about it. And then he says he feels bad because his mother lost a lot of friends and associates because of him coming out as gay. A lot of people within his community, within the Asian community, no longer dealt with her. And she's still stuck by my side regardless of that. So finally, he does come to grips and tells his mother the truth, which they embrace. And she was saying that, I'm sorry you had to go through this alone. I wish you would have told me. And he says, I wasn't alone. Connor was there with me. So that's what won her over in regards to Connor. And her and Connor was cool. Then they also had like a bachelor party with the moms there. And that was definitely a good thing. That they finally, mended that situation and now they were close again. Then we got this thing with Annalise and the governor and Governor Burkhead. She pretty much says that, she wants her to come work with her on this fair defense treaty where we can actually get affordable legal representation to all of the clients, and that each client will be given good representation in the name of the law. So of course Annalise is on board with this because she's doing this Clash Ashton suit. She's trying to do all she can for Nate Sr. and she really wants to further her fight. So now it looks like the governor's trying to work with her and trying to mend fences where they can come together and they can conquer the world. And we see that Emmett is the main person that said that this deal is some bullshit. And at first he got real irate with Annalise, and Annalise was like, he says, if I could fire your ass. He says, go ahead and I'll sue your ass for verbal abuse in the workplace. I got witnesses in here that see you up in here yelling at me. But he's pretty much telling her that don't take this deal because it's front loaded and it's a bunch of bull. And then he also says that you need to check this section. They said unless you keep good rapport is the only way you're gonna get funding. So if the case doesn't get any good grounding or if it doesn't do well in the courts, then you're not gonna get no funding for your clinic or anything. So she pretty much goes back and makes her change that, but then she says, I also asked for the release of Nathaniel Leahy Sr. in the care of his son. And she says, okay, we'll work that out. So therefore we see that Nate Sr. still hasn't been sent to a mental facility yet. He's still in jail. And while he's there talking to Nate, he says that he wants to write a letter to the victim's family of the guy that he killed, because he says that that's something I will never forget. You know, I took a life, and I can never go through my life forgetting that I took this person away from. He had a family. He had people that loved and cared about him. So he asks him to find out you know, information about the guy's family, where he can send him a letter. And we see that with the help of Annalise, you know, he finally got that information, and he starts writing the letter to this guy's to the guy's family. But we see that Nate decides to take the initiative because he wants to help his father get out of jail and into a mental facility. He goes to Miller and asks Miller, could you pull some strings to get my father, because my father's still on the waiting list, and can you actually make a move, you know, to help my father, get a bed at one of the facilities. I'm sorry, I'm tripping up, y'all. Just trying to follow my notes and talk to y'all at the same time. So we saw that go down. And Miller pretty much says, okay. Miller lets him know that, yeah, I called somebody and they're gonna move him tonight. So supposedly he called a friend of his, who pretty much pulled some strings to get Nate Senior released, you know, into the mental facility. So then back at Kaplan and Gold, they have a case that Tegan has assigned Laura to, and it's for this Gut Busters diet pills. You know, pretty much they're being sued for $100 million because they said that the pill didn't work and they had false advertising and all of that. And she gave it to Laurel because she says that because of you, we've lost one of our biggest clients, you know, Antares. So now you need to actually, you know, start giving back. So this case is yours, so make it happen. And of course, you know, Michaela was all trying to get into it because, you know, she still got the hots for Tegan, which was crazy. So the first argument that Laurel came up with was that, you know, the advertisement as far as fat consumed, you know, that wasn't truly accurate, so they can kind of sue the advertising agency. But then Michaela shut that down, and she says that it doesn't matter. The company has liability with anything involving the product, so you can't blame advertisement. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, it's about whether this pill works and it's giving people results. And regardless of their advertisement, you know, all companies are liable for their advertisements, so that won't be a good fight to take them down. But then they finally got the smoking gun. They actually compared that some of the same ingredients of Gut Busters is in this pill, this other diet pill called Trims. And Trims was also taken to court, but instead of paying $100 million, they just paid $5 million in restitution, paying back the clients. So once she delivered that, Tegan was like, we gotta win here. So here it is. They only paid $5 million to the customers that complained or were ripped off. And here it is. Now they become a client to Kaplan and Gold, and they bring their cases and everything there. So that's a lot of money on the table for the firm. So, and then we see while she was doing this case, Gabriel was trying to work with her, and she told Gabriel no, because she's kind of on to the fact that something ain't right with Gabriel. So then we see that on the night of Nate Sr.'s release, he gets shot and killed. And that's where episode 7 I got played really centers on is the aftermath of Nate Sr.'s death. And here it was, he was killed before he got in that van to go to a mental facility. So this already looks like foul play. And they start talking, and then like we see in episode 7, they're showing everything, talking about Nate Sr.'s death on the news. They say that he was off his meds, and that he attacked 2 guards. He attacked one of the guards by stabbing her with a pen, and there were no cameras that actually caught any of this. So immediately it looks like a hit. Even Emmett said, this shit don't sound right. So he even kind of peeped the bullshit that, nah, something ain't right with this damn case. And shit just ain't adding up. And we see that, and we definitely see throughout this episode that Nate is just distraught. He is hurt. He's heartbroken. Like, here it is. He was just building a relation with his father to have his father ripped away from him. And we see that right now, Bonnie gives no fucks about Nate because she's still upset that he opened up this can of worms that's her life in her past. And then we see that Annalise meets with the governor, and she pretty much, offers her condolences or whatever, and saying that we're going to see to it that justice is served and all of that. Then we see that, another thing that also happened in this episode, Connor and Oliver, they decided to have a gay night or whatever because at the bachelor party, both of their parents were there, so they couldn't really turn up the way they wanted to, but they did have a good time. But they want to have a great moment. And we also saw in this episode that they actually go to a church, which is a Presbyterian church, and they meet with the pastor who's going to marry them. And we can definitely see that Connor was not really feeling the whole church thing. He wasn't feeling getting married in the church. He really wasn't feeling this whole Presbyterian religion, because he says in some other countries, gay people are still being, attacked and murdered and harassed for being who they are. And, but the pastor asked him, so why do you want to get married in the church? He says, I don't. But because Oliver wants to, and I want to make Oliver happy. So she really sees that he really does love Oliver, because here it is, he don't want to get married in the church, but he wants to make sure that Oliver has the wedding of his dreams. So he'll go with it. And she says, I can't wait to marry the two of you. So I thought that was touching. They also have like a little night out with them, and pretty much with the whole Keating crew, including Asher. They're all throwing shots back and having a good old time. And then afterwards, we see that Connor and Oliver are walking through like an alley, whatever, and they share a passionate kiss with each other. And then some big guy walks past and was like, get a room, faggots. And of course, Connor's on edge, after dealing with Nate Sr.'s death, him being a part of that Supreme Court thing. So losing Nate Sr. definitely affected him. Also dealing with, homophobia in the world, him talking to the Presbyterian pastor. Like, all this stuff just caved in, and he just like, what the hell did you just say? And the dude kind of showed that he was this big guy or whatever. He was like, I said, get a room, faggots. And Connor just lunged on his ass. But then big guy got some good blows in. He kind of fucked Oliver. He kind of fucked Connor up a little bit. But Connor got on top and started to beat that ass. And I was so here for Connor doing that. Gay liberation all day. So I was really proud of Connor taking a stand. So then we actually see that Annalise meets up with Tegan. She's trying to share that she thinks that Nate Sr. was murdered, and that they're trying to cover it up and trying to make it seem as if that he was this irate person, when I know that's not the case, and he was getting out. So why would he flip out when he's getting out of jail? This shit ain't adding up to me. But, you know, Tegan's trying to tell Annalise, look, you're pretty much drawing conclusions that may not be real. You know, you need to calm down and everything. And she was like, fuck this shit. You know, they killed a black man, you know, and they're sweeping it under the rug. They killed a black man who was on his way out of jail. And, you know, there's no way in hell you can't tell me that this shit was a setup. But she asks her, you know, can you give me MO on Emmett? Because now that everything, because Annalise is starting to figure out that she gave up her job at Camp Plan and go work for the governor, only to lose her face case, you know, because Nate Sr. is now dead. She's now up in limbo, so she's like, I need something on Emmett so I can, you know, blackmail his ass. So there we see that Nate goes to see Miller, and he says he wants to do an inquiry about his dad's death, you know, and at first he was kind of against it, but then he decides to go along with it. Okay, fine, we'll do the inquiry into your dad's death. So they're going to be doing an investigation to see whether was there foul play in the death of Nate Sr. Then we see that Miller talks to Bonnie. Bonnie's now back, but Bonnie is still being very shady and everything towards Nate, because she's like, I still have the right to be upset. And I'm like, see, that's the reason why you're not a lawyer, Bonnie, because you stay in your emotions too long. Alright, so then we see we pretty much see that Frank and Laurel are still studying Gabriel. They're still looking at everything he's doing, and Laurel now knows the truth about Gabriel, and she's asking, why won't you not tell Annalise? You know, why haven't you told her? She says that she doesn't need this right now, but you know, Laurel is like, look, you need to tell her. Like, what the hell? You know, here it is, but then she's also peeping the shit that, you know, because at the bachelor party, he got invited through Asher. And, you know, while he's at the party, he talks to Laurel. He was saying, like, I don't know why you're avoiding me. I'm not really trying to pick you up. That's not what I'm trying to do. And I know that, you know, things are still kind of shaky after you lost Wes. And she was like, oh, but you asked me about my baby daddy as if you ain't even know who my baby daddy is, and now you admitting that you know it was Wes? So she pretty much says, don't talk to me anymore. So she peeped that, yeah, Gabriel's on some bullshit, and we see that they're pretty much staking him out to see what's going on. And then we kind of see that Gabriel is now starting to come on to Michaela now. So Laurel's peeping game like, oh, because he couldn't get me, he now trying to go after her now. And he's like, it's something about him, it ain't adding up. And, you know, I'm kind of on the fence as to what is his intentions towards Michaela. So then we see Tegan comes in to Kaplan and Gold, and we see that Emmett was actually interviewing, you know, this attorney for Annalise's position, and Tegan just looked the dude up and down, so they obviously knew each other. And Tegan pretty much approached Emmett and was like, look, instead of you trying to hire another person, why not give me the extra money and let me run the position? And she was saying that, and like Emmett was like, do you not recall that, you know, that you had that whole situation with Antares that unfolded? And she says that, look, I didn't even know anything about Antares until it happened. As a matter of fact, the deal wasn't good to begin with, if that was the case. So why am I being blamed for this? But she says that, look, the board is coming after me for my misconduct, and lo and behold, they're doing the same to you. So either continue to take it or go somewhere else. It is what it is. And I'm like, Tegan was mad as hell. She was like, oh, I won't. She kind of had that look like, oh, I ain't fucking with you no more, Emmett, since you want to be on some bullshit. So, therefore, we also see, as far as this case, Asher is helping because it's for Nate. And Nate has been there for them. So they got Nate down. And they pretty much did some intel on the guards that were working that night in the prison. They did the male. The male is a saint. He sings in his choir. But the woman, because they pretty much did a thing that a lot of police officers also are sometimes involved with domestic violence with their partners. The woman pretty much got arrested for beating up her husband, and she beat her husband's ass. And they said that, yeah, that like his history of domestic violence is very prevalent in prison guards. You know, you're done with all these mad people and, you know, crazy situations, and a lot of times you take all that anger and frustration and, you know, at home to the person that you love, which is crazy. So pretty much, you know, they got this information, and Annalise gave it to Miller and said, use it in court. So he did bring it up, but the judge pretty much shot it down. But it kind of put it out there that, look, she's a woman with a temper, and it's on file that she physically abused her husband. So then we kind of see that Asher runs into Bonnie and pretty much tells Bonnie that, you know, I know what's going on between you and Miller, and I'm happy for you. So I thought that was pretty cool. So then we get the juggler here. Annalise meets up with Governor Burkhead. Governor Burkhead flips the script on her and said that due to all of the press that's going on about Nate Sr., the treaty is now off the table. Oh, Annalise flipped the fuck out, because she's now peeping the bullshit. She says, you lied to me, and I dare you play this kind of game with me. This whole thing was a setup. You never had no intention of working with me. You made me quit my job at Plan and Gold and, you know, take my clinic from them to bring me over here so you can get me on your end, so therefore you can kill my face case. You can and then also pull the rug from under me so I can't fight anymore and I can't do my other my other class action cases. You knew exactly what you were doing, you know. And at first her little assistant like, I'm gonna need you to like, and she says, and if you got a problem, you can call the damn security, bitch, because I'm gonna say what I gotta say. She pretty much went in on Governor Burkhead, said that she was basic and she's trash, and that I'm gonna do everything in my power to destroy you. And then Governor Burkhead's like, well, I wouldn't move too fast if I were you. I mean, after all, we know about the adoption. And I'm like, what adoption? What adoption is she talking about? You know, so this definitely shook Annalise to her core, because she started drinking again. And Bonnie discovered it. She had like four little bottles of vodka in the bottom of her trash. You know, because Annalise loves vodka. So of course Bonnie immediately picked up that she's drinking again. And I'm like, with all this crap, yeah, this is definitely shaking her up. And then they say that they know about the adoption, and I'm like, what adoption are they talking about? So I think we're going to find out a little bit more about that soon enough. So we see that Annalise tries to get Miller to put her on the stand because she was the closest person to Nate Sr., and she'd be the best person to act in his defense. And at first he says no, but then after Annalise and Bonnie have a moment, she convinces Miller to let her get on the stand. So while Annalise is on the stand, Annalise is being, she's being questioned by Miller, and and pretty much while she's talking, she's looking at the jury, and the judge is telling her, do not address the jury. And she goes in and she says that what you have here is a history of black man versus white woman. This is what happened to Emmett Till, among others. They use this as a kryptonite to kill black men in cold blood, and that nothing gets done about it. This guy, Emmett Sr., only killed one person after being in the shoe, and yet this guy also went to the Supreme Court and sat by my side and heard every type of negative connotation said about him, and pretty much had his name scandalized, and yet he maintained himself and he never flipped out. He never broke or nothing like that. So I know that this man was a mentally ill patient, and you guys killed him, and you're using this system to sweep it under the rug, because this is what you've always done. You've always killed our black men and then try to create a scandal around it, so therefore no one will actually think twice that this person was probably murdered. So she went in on the stand, and the damn judge pretty much made her get off the stand because she was addressing the jury, because she was trying to get the jury to think and see shit for what it is. But they had no hard evidence because there were no cameras there, so nobody saw anything. Yeah, and that wasn't done by accident. So pretty much they ruled in favor, of the guards, that there was no foul play in his death, but yet we know it was. So pretty much we see that Michaela, after going out drinking, is cuddling with Asher, and they're kind of spooning with each other, and eventually she goes and knocks next door across the hall. Well, actually knocks next door to Gabriel's apartment, and Gabriel's in there with no shirt on. He wants to go to the wedding with Michaela because, and Laurel's peeping the shit that, first he tried to latch on to me, then he lives with Asher, and Asher brought him to the bachelor party, and now he's getting close to Michaela so he can come to the wedding. He's on this bullshit. And here we see that Michaela goes over there to Gabriel's, and they start talking. One thing leads to another. They start kissing, and she's trying to be abstinence, but she's like, forget it, and they just kiss. And we see that Asher overhears it through his wall, because they right next door, so the walls are thin. And we see that Frank and Laurel are watching the whole thing go down, and she's like, you know what? He's doing too damn much. Either you tell Annalise or I will. And then Bonnie comes in and is like, tell Annalise what? So now Bonnie is now a part of the situation, and now she knows what's going on. We see that afterwards, Annalise goes to see Emmett at Kept Planning Gold. At first, he was very standoffish, saying that, oh no, I'm about to get security to remove you and all this shit. But she says that, look, because, she got that information. Because after Tegan got blown off by Emmett, that's when she gave the information to Annalise. Because she's like, oh, Emmett's being an asshole to me? Oh, fuck that. Oh, you can fuck this nigga up. I don't care. And gave her the file. But then she says that I looked at your case, and the misconduct wasn't you, it was her. He says, I can prove your innocence. Bring me back in. I know what it's like to get duped by a client. And I know what it's like to get ripped off. I was married to a man for 20 years, and I come to find out the person who I thought I married, he was not the man I thought he was. So, trust me, I know exactly what you're going through, and I got your back. Bring me back in. So, she ends up getting back her job, and the clinic finally gets, they finally, get everything back set up with Kept Planning Gold, which was great. Because, the governor screwed her over. Yeah, I already talked about that. So then we get a scene with Nate and Annalise, and Annalise definitely feels the guilt because she's like, and I'm thinking, after her losing her, late senior, she built a relationship with that man, and now that he's dead, and then now the governor has something about some adoption holding over Annalise's head. No wonder why she's drinking. I wouldn't blame her, because that's a lot to deal with. But then Annalise is also feeling guilt because she's like, here it was, I was trying to help this man, and maybe I may have had a hand in getting him killed. But she said that I'm not letting this go. I am going to get justice for your father, and I won't stop until I do. And pretty much, we thinking that Nate's mad at Annalise, but he says, no, you're not. I'm fighting with you. You're not going to fight this fight alone. I'm fighting right by your side. And I was like, that's what's up, Nate, because at the end of the day, you know that Annalise meant nothing but good to your dad. But we live in the system's fucked up, and this is what's being shown. How screwed up the legal system is. Well, pretty much, the police system there is, and how screwed up it is, and how people get, railroaded, and people get treated badly, and because they don't have legal counsel or they don't have proof, they get thrown in jail. Like, there's a jail system full of innocent people, or people who were just at the wrong place in the wrong time. So they kind of showcased that in this episode, and I thought it was done very well, because Annalise is not giving up, because she knows that Nate Sr. was murdered, but they need to find a way to prove it. And then after they closed the case, we saw that Nate was sitting on the bench, just broken and sad. And we saw Michaela sit down there, and actually told him that, look, you've always been there for us, and I want you to know that I'm here for you. Anything you need me to do, just ask, and I got you. So we seen that she's acting in the space of Annalise, like she's taking on that role to help people, and Nate tells her thank you. So then we pretty much get a glimpse back at the wedding. We see the bloody mess that's happening in the snow. We see that there's a guy who's dead on the ground. And then we see Bonnie talk to somebody else. We don't know who this person is, but she's telling him, like, you can do this. Just take him in the car and go. So who was she talking to, y'all? So obviously there was another person involved in that whole situation at the wedding. We need to know who was involved. Who's the person that's dead, and who was the person that Bonnie talked to. So we definitely gonna find that out on the fall finale. So that's what I have, y'all. If I missed anything, put it down in the comments. I'd love to talk to you about it. But subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, follow me on all of my social platforms. I have them all listed in the description box. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I will be back with the fall finale of the Haves and the Have-Nots. So until next time, everybody, take care.